Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. A new autopsy report shows a tech CEO Bob Lee had drugs and alcohol in his body the night when he was fatally stabbed. Hollywood writers are on strike. It's the first writers' strike in 15 years. Residents of a small college town report another stabbing. It's the third case this week. We have more updates regarding Bob Lee's murder case. A new autopsy report shows that the tech executive who was stabbed to death had drugs and alcohol in his system. Here are the details.
According to the San Francisco Medical Examiner, Cash App founder Bob Lee had alcohol, cocaine, and ketamine in his system at the time he was stabbed. Another tech executive, Nima Momeni, has been charged for stabbing Lee with a kitchen knife after an argument over Momeni's sister. Lee had 2 stab wounds on his chest and 1 at his hip. Momeni faces murder charges and is scheduled to have a court hearing on May 2nd.
And now we have some major news. Thousands of film and television writers headed to picket lines on Tuesday for their first work stoppage in 15 years. The strike is sending Hollywood into turmoil and disrupting TV production as the industry wrestles with the shift to streaming.
Who's got the power? We've got the power. What kind of power? Union power.
The union, representing 11,500 writers of film, television, and other entertainment forms, are now on strike. They are demanding higher pay from studios such as Walt Disney Co. and Netflix Inc. It's the first Hollywood strike of any kind and the first writers' strike in 15 years.
I absolutely feel that the writers had absolutely no choice. This was a situation where, yet again, management is towing the bottom line. And at the end of the day, that's what you're always dealing with.
The rise of streaming has eroded television ad revenue as traditional TV audiences shrink. Writers said they were willing to walk off the job because changes from streaming have made it difficult for many to earn a living in expensive cities such as New York and Los Angeles.
My hope is that it will be, similar to 2007. It'll be not longer than a few months. I hope we all get back to work by the end of the summer.
Film and entertainment writers have gone on strike 6 times in recent history. The first came in 1960. A Writers Guild walkout that lasted nearly 5 months. Strikes followed in 1973, 81, and 85. The longest work stoppage, lasting exactly 5 months, came in 1988. And more recently, the 2007-2008 strike was resolved after 3 months. Among the main concessions that the writers won back then included requirements that fledgling stream shows would have to hire guild writers if their budgets were big enough.
As the writers strike in Hollywood, writers also began picketing this afternoon in Manhattan, New York. What's at stake and how would it impact your favorite shows? NTD's Arlene Richards spoke to a television producer to hear more on the current situation.
I stream, you stream for a fair contract. Spread the wealth. Those are just some of the signs being held by screenwriters who took to the streets in Manhattan on Tuesday.
Yeah, I got no show without my writers.
After months of negotiations, the Writers Guild of America unanimously voted early Tuesday to call for a strike after new contract talks broke down. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers and the Guild had been negotiating for a new contract to replace a 3-year deal that expired on Monday. Some say streaming and its ripple effects are at the center of the dispute. The Guild argues that writers aren't getting their share of the money, even though series budgets have increased.
Better pay, better residuals, larger writers' rooms, better contracts, longer contracts, all kinds of things.
And the streaming service's use of smaller staff has cut into the length of time writers are needed, affecting long-term financial stability. Picketers took to social media. Javier Grillo Morchat wrote, "The corporations claim that they can't possibly part with less than 3% of their profits to properly pay the writers who create the work from which they profit." But a veteran television producer said executives holding on to their pay is not the main issue.
The executive salaries make almost no difference in the overall elements of the financials of any of these big companies. It's not enough.
He said the writers don't have to bear the risk that executives do.
You're dealing with an industry where you might make 50 different shows and have none of them be hits, or have one of them be hits. So you're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars looking for that lottery ticket to hit.
But he said the big divisive issue is how the writers get paid.
If you are a studio, you want to be able to pay writers in a piecemeal type fashion. And effectively on the writer's side, they're like, hey, you hire us, we want some guaranteed time, whether you use us or not.
He said the strike could last anywhere from 30 to 90 days. What happens to your favorite shows?
We have some time before the strike really affects entertainment. I would say the late night shows are probably the ones that are going to get hurt the most, because it's easy to go find alternative entertainment than them. Movies, TV series, we've got some time because a lot of them have already been in production and are already done.
The Guild has scheduled picketing at locations throughout New York and California. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
In Northern California, residents in the small college town of Davis say they are now frightened and are on edge after 3 people were stabbed within a week, 2 fatally. The most recent attempt involved a homeless woman who was stabbed through her tent. Here's the latest information.
3 people were stabbed within a week in Davis. 2 were fatal, and the latest one left a homeless woman in critical condition at a hospital. On Monday night, authorities said the suspect knifed several times through her tent.
At this stage, it's very difficult to determine whether it was the same knife used in all 3 incidents, but the pattern of the attack and the severity of the attack with a knife was very similar.
Police issued a shelter-in-place order for residents shortly after the stabbing of the woman was reported at 11:45 p.m. Monday. It was lifted hours later after police said they had not caught the suspect, who is described as a male with curly hair, a thin build, and carrying a brown backpack.
We're following a multitude of leads, but as of this point, nobody has been identified.
The FBI, Davis Police Department, and other law enforcement agencies are working together. It's unclear if the same suspect is responsible for all 3 stabbings in the downtown Davis area, which also includes the UC Davis campus. The first death was reported Thursday before noon when officers found David Henry Bro in downtown Central Park. The 50-year-old was well known in the area as the Compassion Guy. According to city officials, Bro often greeted people and asked for their views on compassion. The second fatal stabbing occurred Saturday night at Sycamore Park. Authorities identified the victim as 20-year-old Kareem Abul Najm, a student at the university and a graduate of Davis High School. About 9,000 UC Davis students live on campus, in addition to the 67,000 residents of the city. Authorities warn people to stay alert and look out for each other. They also ask the public to report anything strange or out of the ordinary.
We'll take a short break now, but stay tuned for some golden stories when we come back. Snow is still piled high in the Sierra Nevada mountains. The latest survey recorded a well above average snowpack. California is called the Golden State for a reason. Gold prospectors say this year's winter storm will flush more gold into rivers near mountains. And California is home to some of the most expensive zip codes in the nation. Homes in these areas all sell for millions of dollars. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Zhang. The state's recent snowpack measurements are in. The results? About 5 feet of snow at a measurement site. That's still a huge amount of snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains, despite the warmer temperatures in recent weeks. NTD's David Lam has more details.
Recent measurement shows 59 inches of snow with a snow water equivalent of 30 inches. That's 241% of average for Phillips Station on May 1, according to the state.
Compared to where we were about a month ago when we were here on April 1, roughly about half of this snow has melted since then, but still this is still a lot of snow for May, and we should probably expect most of this to melt through the month of May, and who knows, maybe we might even see a little bit here in about a month on June 1.
The California Department of Water Resources released its snow survey data after conducting a manual measurement in El Dorado County, compiling information from its network of 130 snow sensors throughout the state. The sensors show the statewide snowpack snow water equivalent at 49.2 inches, or 254% of average for this date. Despite a brief increase in warm temperatures late April, overall statewide snowpack melted at a slower pace than average in April due to colder temperatures at the start of the month and increased cloud cover.
Good.
Snow water equivalent measures the amount of water still contained in the snowpack and is a key component for water supply runoff forecasts, the agency said. These measurements provide critical info to plan for the coming snowmelt and potentially flooding in parts of the state.
That way we know how much snowmelt is coming into those reservoirs, and it helps inform reservoir operations so that they know how much water they may need to release in order to make room for that incoming snowmelt. A lot of that work is coordinated constantly between our groups here at DWR, the Flood Operations Center, the National Weather Service, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as a lot of the downstream agencies that maintain and operate the flood control system. So there's a lot of constant coordination between all the agencies.
The information is vital to drinking water districts, farmers, cities, and flood control systems, especially in vulnerable and already flooded regions like the San Joaquin Valley and communities along the Central Coast like Pajaro. According to DWR, only 3 other times in history have the survey results surpassed 200%, in 1952, 1969, and 1983. Although data from those years isn't as comprehensive as the current numbers. Also, rain showers are expected to persist into midweek in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, followed by drier conditions later in the week with gradually warm temperatures. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
80 on the dot.
The snowpack remains high and it might even collect some additional snow. After a sunny, warmer weekend, winter-like conditions have returned to both northern and southern California. But weather forecasters predict that the cold will only last for a few days. Here's the current outlook.
A cold storm is expected to drop temperatures about 10 degrees in Southern California this week. According to the National Weather Service, an unseasonably cold storm system will move over Southern California between May 1st to 4th. It will likely bring rain and mountain snow, gusty winds, and a slight chance of thunderstorms. Light rain was forecasted for Los Angeles and Orange counties on Sunday night and Monday morning. Potentially heavier rainfall is expected from Tuesday through Thursday. Los Angeles' temperature will drop from 70 to 60 degrees through Thursday. Similar trends are expected in the Bay Area. Isolated thunderstorms, bouts of heavy rain, and light hail are all in the forecast. Rain began Monday night and could continue through Thursday. Temperatures are expected to linger around the high 50s and mid-60s. But the cold won't last long. The Weather Service predicts a warming and drying trend later this week into the weekend.
Speaking of more potential rain in the forecast, gold isn't raining from the sky, but it might be flooding into the rivers by summer. Following the winter's record snowpacks, gold prospectors anticipate that the upcoming snowmelt will deposit even more gold in Northern California. Let's take a look.
As this year's snow melts from the Sierra Nevada and other mountains, gold prospectors are anticipating that the runoff will wash away silt and deposit more gold in the rivers and streams. Nugget Nick Prebelik says he expects the record snowpack in Northern California to deposit even more gold in Woods Creek in Tulameen County. The Prebelics, who own California Gold Panning, usually find about an ounce of gold a day when they take guests to pan for nuggets on their claim. The most he and his father have found was 127 ounces in one day. The Prebelic family has been offering tours to those who want to experience gold mining and learn about the history of the gold rush in the state. California State Parks Peace Officer Supervisor Ryan Randar told the Epoch Times they are still encouraging gold prospectors to wait until the warmer weather comes before panning for gold at the South Yuba River and Malakoff-Diggins State Historic Park. Runoff from the massive Sierra Nevada snowpack is already threatening to flood the state's most famous national park, Yosemite. Randar says, quote, "We still have really high flows. We're not allowed to keep people out of the river, but we're encouraging them to stay out." According to the National Museum of American History, the state's first gold rush in 1848 brought fortune seekers from all over the world. More than 300,000 people came to the territory, and gold was worth $20.67 per ounce. Today, each ounce is worth about $2,000.
Now, if you strike it rich panning for gold, you might be one step closer to affording a house in the Golden State. A new report finds that California harbors some of the priciest zip codes in the country. Let's take a look at how much it costs to buy a house in these areas. In a new report, California was found to have some of the most expensive zip codes in the United States. The analysis by Clever uses data such as Zillow's Home Value Index in order to gather statistics concerning home prices. And the top 10 most expensive zip codes in California fell in either the Los Angeles Metro or San Francisco Bay Area. At the top of the list sat Atherton, a Silicon Valley suburb where the typical home value is around $7 million. Beverly Hills also scored high, with a typical home value of $5 million. Los Altos Hills was not far behind, with a value of $4 million per residence. For context, the average middle-class American family makes a little over $70,000 a year. Besides California, New York had 2 zip codes making the top 10 most expensive zip codes nationwide, and Washington State had 1. Clever's study also found that 19% of people would choose to move to Los Angeles if money wasn't taken into account. New York also scored high in this metric, with the 15% of participants preferring to live there instead. Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for today's Sports Roundup.
This is your California Sports Roundup, and I'm Carlos Reyes.
Mauricio Dubin recorded a 3-hit game against his former club, and Houston survived an early loss of its starting pitcher to claim an interleague victory over visiting San Francisco. Dubin, who spent parts of 4 seasons with the Giants before joining Houston in May of 2022 via trade, went 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs. His run-scoring single knotted the score at 2-2 with 2 outs in the 5th inning. Dubin added an opposite field double bomb down the right field line in the 7th that scored Jake Myers and ignited a 5-run frame. Unfortunately, right-hander Luis Garcia departed after tossing 8 pitches in the top of the inning. This marked the 2nd consecutive game that Houston lost a starting pitcher due to injury. The Giants suffered their 4th consecutive loss on the heels of a 5-game winning streak. Astros 7, Giants 3. The Golden State Warriors will host the Los Angeles Lakers in Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals. Los Angeles has gotten the better of the Warriors, having gone 3-1 against Golden State during the regular season. The Lakers won the last regular season matchup 113-105 on March 5th. Anthony Davis led the Lakers with 39 points, and Stephen Curry led the Warriors with a humble 27. The Warriors have gone 30-22 against Western Conference teams this season. Golden State also has a 21-21 record against teams over 500. Meanwhile, the Lakers are 6-10 against division opponents. Los Angeles ranks 6th in the league, scoring 54.5 points per game in the paint, with Davis averaging 15.8. This is shaping to be yet another exciting chapter in the LeBron versus Curry saga, as both teams have their eyes set on winning another Larry O'Brien trophy. The San Jose Earthquakes and Austin FC played to a bittersweet 2-2 draw on Saturday evening at Q2 Stadium in Austin, Texas. The Quakes earn a point on the road and rise to 4th place in the 14-team Western Conference. Head coach Luchi Gonzalez had this to say about the Quakes' performance.
Look, the point's good. It's a positive point for sure. This is not an easy place to play. Good fan base and an exciting club, a new club. And they did very well last season. It's so early in the season. So, I'm proud of the guys. I thought we dueled well. I thought we won battles. I thought we were organized defensively in our shape. We made it difficult to play through.
San Jose opened the scoring with a blistering hot strike by team captain Jackson Ewell in the 21st minute. Carlos Acapo passed the ball into the penalty box to Ewell for a shot that banged into the top right corner of Austin goalkeeper Brad Stuver's net. Austin later evened the score through Emiliano Rigioni in the 40th minute. Then the Quakes regained the lead with a header from Jeremy Ebobisi in the 75th minute. Cristian Espinosa sent a cross that connected with Ebobisi in the air. 3 minutes later, the Texas side found the equalizer through Sebastian Driussi off a rebound from a long free kick. The Earthquakes will now come back to San Jose to host the defending MLS Cup champions, LAFC, at Levi Stadium on Saturday, May 6th.
That is it for today's Sports Roundup. Thank you for watching. I'm Carlos Reyes.
Thanks, Carlos. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.